Taoiseach, as you know, we are facing a strike action in relation to our secondary schools, and particularly from the ASTI. And we support the Lansdowne Road Agreement, and we've been consistent in that, and I think there's been a consistent call all round for the ASTI to enter the Lansdowne Road Agreement. But in my view, the strike can and should be avoided, because I think thousands of students are going to suffer, and they will be the main victims of this particular strike across the country. And I don't think it's necessary, and I think it can be avoided. There's no question that the teachers have issues. Of that there is no doubt, and they cover a range of areas, not least the junior certificate reform, and not everybody was fully agreeable with all of that, including myself. I had issues with some aspects of it, but again, I don't think it necessitates industrial action. The issue seems to have crystallised around equal pay, particularly for new entrants. And whilst the TUI and INTO have negotiated partial restoration of pay equality from about 15 to 22% within that range, we've been consistently supporting the idea that there has to be full restoration over time, that basically new entrants should not be disadvantaged into the future as they have been over the last number of years. But that's a very key objective, and there seems to be a lot of consensus around. I was watching the debate last night on the Claire Byrne show. The President of the ASTI seemed to indicate that this was the central issue causing the strike, that this was the main issue around which the strike action was taking place, the idea of some commitment around full restoration. In other words, that the government is committed not just to that which has been negotiated up to the end of the expiry date of the Lansdowne Road Agreement, but indeed beyond that, that there would be a full equalisation of pay for new entrants. Now, the Minister last night, Damien English, said there would be. And he indicated that that was the government's policy. My understanding, and I could be corrected, that Minister Bruton at some time ago indicated something similar. However, there doesn't appear to have been any categoric articulation of that principle by the government side in the current talks. And it would be interesting, Taoiseach, if you could indicate whether Minister English was fully articulating official government policy, that officially the government is committed, post-Lansdowne, once that agreement expires, to full restoration in terms of the equal pay issue. Because it seems to me that the other unions negotiated, TUI and INTO, and they didn't abandon their commitment to that. They're going to still continue to fight for that. And one is left with the question as to why schools have to close at all. And being no doubt, as you know, Taoiseach, that the withdrawal of supervision means indefinite closure of schools. People may not have been aware of that out there, but that is the reality of the practicality of the withdrawal of supervision. So I think there may be a temptation, Taoiseach, to punish the STI within the system. And I think that temptation should be resisted, and I think a genuine effort should be made to see if on the issue of equal pay consensus can be arrived at, because it seems to me there doesn't seem to be a whole lot between people on that core issue.
Well, I'm disappointed that this has gone this far, and there's still time for the ASTI to pull back here. I'd make the point that Minister Bruton has been absolutely diligent in wanting to see this threatened strike called off Alaska and Corla. It's a dispute that's unnecessary. Clearly, the issues in this dispute have already been dealt with for other unions within the Lansdowne Road Agreement. Now, I think I should make the point that the deal that's on offer to the ASTI, that has been accepted by and balloted by the other unions, would see pay increases of between 15% and 22% for new entrance teachers, with further benefits in terms of working conditions and a route to further possible improvements through the Public Pay Commission announced today by the Minister for Public Expenditure and endorsed by the Government. And just for information of everybody, under the proposed deal for new entrant teachers, which is being implemented for the INTO and the TUI, and which is potentially an offer to the ASTI, The starting pay for new entrant members will increase by 15% to Last Corla between the 31st of August this year and the 1st of January 2018. That's from €31,009 to €35,602. And an individual member recruited since the 1st of September 2015 will see a 22% increase in their pay between the 31st of August 2016 and the 1st of January 2018. That's from €31,000 to €37,723. In fact, in terms of career earnings, these deals, which have been done, they restore approximately 3/4 of the reductions for new entrants that were put in place since 2011. Now, Deputy Martin, in fairness to him, raised a particular question here in regard to equality, and I hope that this threatened strike can be called off. And I know that there are sensitive discussions going on at the moment, but equality and fairness are central to everything that the government tries to do here, particularly in the area of education, where Minister Bruton has focused on creating better opportunities for people from disadvantaged areas in our school system and in higher education. And in the recent budget, as you know, a number of measures were contained to deliver on this. There's also put the deal on the table, accepted by the TUI and the INTO that I've mentioned. But there are other kinds of equality that we have to bear in mind. Equality between public servants in different parts of the public service, and equality between public servants and people who work elsewhere or who don't work at all. And as Impact, the union, warned yesterday, it would not be equal or fair for us to do sectoral deals with particular public servants that leave other public servants who have signed up to Lansdowne Road disadvantaged. And it would also not be equal or fair for us to do unaffordable deals with particular groups of public servants that mean that we do not have the money left in the public purse to provide increases in social welfare payments for vulnerable groups, tax reductions for people at work, or investments or improvements in public services that people rely on. So, while your question is a valid question, Deputy Martin, these talks are at a very sensitive stage, and I do not propose to deal with that on the floor of the House here, except to say that fairness is an issue that has been central to Minister Bruton's negotiations all the way along the line.
Minister English seemed to say it last night.
No, I didn't see Minister English.
No, I'm saying he did. I saw it. And he was very clear that there would be full restoration in the context of pay equality for young teachers. The phrase was eventually. So he was very clear on the principle, and it was in response to the President of the ASTI's point during the debate on TV last night. Now, I'm seeking clarity today. Was he officially articulating government policy? Because my understanding is Minister Bruton, and I don't have the date, but at some time prior to this would have indicated something similar. I believe there should be full equality in terms of the restoration, obviously to be negotiated in the broader framework in terms of post-Lansdowne. No issue in saying that. But I don't think I would be surprised if people ultimately have issues with that. But Minister English clearly said it last night, and it seems to me, it kind of, in some respects, was a very clear answer to the request that came and was articulated by the President of the ASTI on last night's programme. So you might indicate to me, is that government policy? Or was it just, was Minister English winging it?
As committed to fully implementing the Lansdowne Road Agreement. And as you know, this requires continued careful management of the economy, but also a structured way to respond both to the reductions that were made, and 3/4 of those have already been dealt with in the agreed negotiations as signed off by 2 of the teacher unions. The government are fully committed, within the constraints of Lansdowne Road, to implement that in full, and you need an orderly and structured way of doing that. And that's the reason for negotiations, and those negotiations have been concluded successfully to this point by the TUI and the INTO, obviously with benefits for their respective members. Those same benefits are on offer for the ASTI, and I would, in response to your final question, say to the ASTI, nobody wants to see this happen. The issues in dispute here have been dealt with successfully and negotiated to this point with the members of 2 other unions. As you say, there are two particular issues at strike here. One is supervision and the other is in respect of new entrants. And both of these are on the table and have been discussed successfully in part by 2 other unions. That benefit is there for the members of the ASTI if they wish to deal with that now. And the Minister has already made his comments in respect of supervision. Obviously, that if that's called off, it has an impact on the issue of benefits for members of the ASTI.